So once we have this data, now we are in a position to create a tree on the basis of a couple of attributes. For example, if we take the attribute here, then from the data set we know that this attribute here can result in three possibilities. The hair can be blonde, the hair can be red, or the hair can be brown, right? So if you look into this data set, you will see that a hair can either be blonde, it can be brown, or it can be red. So we have mentioned all these three possibilities with this attribute here, and then we can associate all the persons which have these attributes or these hair colors. For example, if we look into the data set, that how much who are those individuals which have brown hair color, then we will see that Alex, Pete and John have brown hair color. You can see here that Alex has brown, Pete has brown, and we can see that John also has brown hair. So now only Emily is the one with the red hair, so we are putting Emily here, but we cannot assign any individual against blonde hair color, because we also need to associate another attribute with it. Why? Because if you have a look at the blonde, then a person can only be blonde, and we can associate the final category with it only with the help of if he also used lotion. Right? So this is very important to understand. We have directly assigned these three individuals with brown hair color to the category of no sunburn. Why? Because these three individuals with the brown can have no other associated category with them, right? But on the other hand, if you look on the blonde category, then blonde category can result in a sunburn, and the blonde category can also result in a no sunburn output, right? So we cannot decide this output on the basis of only hair color. So this means that we also that we need to associate another attribute here, which can be lotion, and if we combine these two attributes, then we can assign our resultant column. So for the blonde, we are also using this attribute lotion used, and by the combination of these two, we can see that Sarah and Annie are the ones which we have no sunburn. On the other hand, Dana and Katie will have sunburn, no sunburn. So this was the step number 2. In step number 3, we need to make rules from the identification trees, and these rules will be based on these trees which we have just created. For example, in our case, we have that if the person's hair is blonde and the person uses lotion, then the person is not sunburned, right? Because you can see here that if the person's hair color is blonde and he uses lotion, then it will result that that person will not have sunburned. On the other hand, if the person's hair is blonde and the person uses no lotion, then in this case it will be this category, and this category you can see is resulting that the person is sunburned. So now in step number 3, we are basically generating or creating rules from our trees. Also in this example, we have seen that if the person's hair is red, then the person is sunburned, and on the other hand, if the person's hair is brown, then the person is not sunburned. So you can say that these two are the simple rules because they are coming directly from only one attribute. So now once we have created the trees and then we have created the rules from those trees, the next step is to optimize the rules. And in rule optimization, the target is to prune the antecedents. So it means that to simplify a rule, you ask whether any of the antecedents can be eliminated without changing what the rule does on the samples. So if there is no major impact, if we remove an antecedent, then we can simplify that rule. So for example, let's consider this simple example in which we can see that if hair is blonde and person uses lotion, then no sunburn. Now for this specific case, if we eliminate the first antecedent and check the rule over the whole database, then we will find that there are no misclassifications, right? So the first antecedent here is if hair color is blonde, and the second antecedent here is person uses lotion. So if I remove this antecedent, hair color is blonde, and I only use this antecedent which says that person uses lotion, then I will see that only this antecedent is resulting in a correct classification. So it simply means that I don't need this antecedent because it is increasing my computation cost but having no impact on the resultant category. And if I remove this one, I will have no misclassification. So hence we can drop this antecedent as unnecessary, and I can perform this check on all of the remaining rules, and I can see that if an antecedent is having no role or performing no role in the correct or misclassification, then we can remove that, because the ultimate goal here is to have correct classification with minimum antecedents, and this is also known as the pruning the antecedents. Similarly, if hair color is blonde and person uses lotion, then we saw that there is no sunburn. If we eliminate the first antecedent in this case and check the rule over the whole database, we will find out that there are no misclassification, and hence we can drop this antecedent. Another example can be if hair color is blonde and person uses lotion, then no sunburn. If we eliminate the second antecedent in this example, then the resulting shortened rule is not consistent with the data, hence it cannot be eliminated, right? So if I am eliminating this one here, that person uses lotion, and I am only using this antecedent that hair color is blonde, then only this antecedent is not enough to perform correct classification. So that's why it is not possible for me to remove this antecedent. So this was the very simple example through which we can perform pruning of rules. Here I have also added another example which is about a canary or a crow, and it uses the same procedure that if we can have the antecedent which is not playing a major role, then we can remove that. On the other hand, we should not remove that. So another important thing here is that we observed here that the rule is not, if the rule is not consistent with the data, and some more antecedents should be incorporated by decision tree expansion to make the rule valid for the whole data set. So there can be cases where some antecedents are not enough and we have to add more antecedents in order to reduce misclassifications. However, we should ask whether doing so is worth our trouble. Is the simplified rule worth an occasional error? Also, maybe the single entry is a noise. So it is a very critical decision that we need to take at this place, that whether we need to add more antecedents or not, or if there is some kind of noise present in the data set. So rules leading to one label can be replaced by a default rule, right? So this is a common trick which we use sometimes in decision trees, that if there are some labels and there are some rules which are leading to one label, then we can generalize that label. So if no other rule applies, then we can have a general label, say X, and we can assign those to these labels X. So, however, this means a very big assumption that all of the uncovered concept space belongs to sample X, right? Since we are having this generalized label, and we are assigning all the labels or the rules which are not resulting to any label to this journal label X. So this is a big assumption which we are making here, and sometimes making this kind of assumption can lead to some misclassifications.